Carson, can I help you?
Good evening, everyone. I don't know how many folks were waiting on. Hi, Shelley, how are you?
Hi, Tom. Good. How are you?
You know, it's a Wednesday evening.
Just answer the question, Tom.
I'm great. I am great. I hope everyone is doing well and is happy and healthy. Are we waiting on any board members, Shelley?
Let's see.
3, 4, 5.
No, it looks like we're here.
Okay, so we have 5 board
We
members.
have 6 actually.
Who is the 6th? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Tanya. Miss
Oh,
Spencer.
hi, Tanya. How are you? You're on mute.
Doing well, thank you.
Perfect. Have we met Tanya yet? It's been so long.
Back in April.
I was, in April, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, hi, Tanya. Glad to have you back.
Thank you.
I'm glad you came back. Okay, so we have 6 members. And I guess we can go ahead and get started since we'll go through the approval of minutes. So I will call the August 11th, 2021 Inglewood Board of Adjustments and Appeals meeting to order. Ms. Work, if you could please take the roll.
Mr. Rieger. Miss Schmitz.
I'm here.
Mr. Friesen.
Present.
Mr. Thompson.
Present.
Mr. Taylor.
Present.
Miss Hoffman. Miss Spencer.
Here.
Chair Finn.
I'm also present. All right, so first up, approval of minutes, and this is the approval of minutes from April 14, 2021. Do I have a motion and a second? I think we have, was there anyone here present that was not in attendance for that meeting?
Me.
Okay. So we'll have so how many people do I need? How many votes affirmative? Just 4, right? No, 5 votes?
Right.
Or 4 if one
4.
abstains.
Yeah.
Yep, 4 votes. Okay, perfect. So, and I looked at and it looks like we're all here, so we'll have enough. So again, approval of minutes from the April 14, 2021. I need a motion and a second.
I would move to approve.
Second.
All right, perfect. We'll just do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, none. So that passes. Approval of finding of fact, and this is for case VAR 2021-005, 681 East Bellevue Avenue. Again, I need a motion and a second.
I move to approve the findings of fact for case VAR 2021-005 at 681 East Bellevue Avenue.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you. So we'll do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so approval of finding of fact. That's been approved for case VAR 2021-005. So there are 6 members present, therefore 5 affirmative votes are required to grant a variance or appeal. The board is authorized to grant or deny a variance by Part 3, Section 60 of the Englewood City Charter. Anyone aggrieved by a decision rendered by this board may appeal that decision to a court of record. However, such appeal must be made within 30 days of the board's decision. Any approved variance is effective at the end of the appeal period. Building permits for construction associated with approved variance will not be issued until the appeal period is ended. Building permits must be obtained and construction began within 180 days of the variance's effective date. Procedure for the meeting for the variance is that the case will be introduced and an overview will be given by staff. Applicant will present their request, reasons the variance should be granted. Proponents will be given an opportunity to speak. Opponents will address the board, and then if needed, staff will address the board again. So the first one we have up on our docket for tonight is case VAR 2021-008, and this is John B. Lane, 2751 South Grant Street. The applicant here is appealing the planning manager's decision to approve an administrative adjustment request related to lot width. So staff, I believe now the ball is in your court.
Good evening, commissioners or board members.
Eric, let me swear you in.
Okay.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that you will tell the truth in this proceeding before the Board of Adjustment and Appeals?
I do.
Please state your name.
Eric Sampson, Planner 2 with Community Development. Okay, so I'm going to try to share my screen here. I don't know. Do you know how I'm supposed to do this? Because there's usually, excuse me, I usually see like a little thing in the corner that says share screen, but I'm not seeing that.
Hold on, Eric.
Is it at the bottom hidden if you take your cursor down to the bottom? There's a green.
Oh, there we go. I found it. Okay, so. All right, so the screen should be sharing. For some reason, I'm having issues with my PowerPoint presentation and it's not loading on the laptop. So I'm just gonna have to wing it and use some photos here. Okay, so this is variance case 2021-008. The background of the case is in April of 2021, Kevin Anderson, on behalf of property owners Glenn Schneiderman and Clint Fish, applied for administrative adjustment for the property at 2751 South Grant Street. The administrative adjustment was required to complete a subdivision of the property into 2 single-family residential lots. And as per the Inglewood Development Code, section 16.2.17, quote unquote, the city manager or designee may vary in minor ways some provisions of this title otherwise applicable to a property pursuant to the procedures in this section. Administrative adjustments are used when the small size of the adjustment requested and the unlikelihood of any adverse effects on nearby properties or the neighborhood make it unnecessary to complete a formal zoning variance process. For the UDC section 16.2.17.2.e states adjustments may be permitted to the minimum lot width or lot area. For requests for lot width adjustments, the adjustments shall not exceed 5% of the required minimum lot width or lot area. And this was a lot width administrative adjustment. So Mr. Anderson's request was for an administrative adjustment to allow 2751 South Grant to be subdivided into 2 R1C parcels. The northern lot would have 48.59 feet of lot width on South Grant Street, and the south lot would meet all the criteria required for a subdivision in an R1C zone district. Hold on just a second. I want to pull up a close-up here of the proposed subdivision. This is from the subdivision plat. And so the proposed parcel A would be 1.41 feet shy of the minimum R1C requirement, frontage requirement 50 feet. As per code, the maximum allowable adjustment would be 2.5 feet on a 50-foot lot, or 5%. The request for a 48.59-foot lot frontage falls within that 5% criteria. So when staff looks at administrative adjustments, we take a look at a couple sections of the code. One is UDC section 16.2.17 D2E. And that is staff must review the criteria for an administrative variance approval, which is the following. 1, the adjustment shall not exceed 5% of the minimum required lot width. And so as I previously stated, this was a request for frontage of 50 foot to 48.59 or 1.141 feet, which does not exceed the 5% cap. This is a 2.8% reduction in the lot, in the required lot width. 2, the adjustment in the minimum lot width or minimum lot area may not result in an alternative permitted land use in the base zone district where the property is located. So the property subject to the administrative adjustment is located within the R1C zone district. And so only a single family detached residential unit would be permitted for each subdivided lot. 3, a development for which a minimum lot width adjustment is granted shall not be eligible for additional variances or additional administrative adjustments based on the reduced lot width area. And there have been no additional variance requests or applications sought on this property. Number 4 is the result of an approved administrative adjustment will result in an increase in the maximum development density or intensity for residential developments. The result of an administrative adjustment shall not exceed 1 additional residential dwelling unit. So the approval of this administrative adjustment with the subdivision of this lot would result in 1 additional residential unit, meeting criteria number 4. In addition, staff also looks at guidelines set forth in section 16-2-17F of the Inglewood City Code, which only allows for the approval of an administrative adjustment if it meets 5 criteria listed. 1, the requested adjustment is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the stated purpose of the municipal code. So this property is in the Bates-Logan neighborhood as defined by the Inglewood Forward Comprehensive Plan. Bates-Logan is identified as a mixed-use transition area, which includes a diversified land use mix and a medium density housing to buffer the Broadway and Lincoln commercial corridor. The approval of the administrative adjustment would allow the development, again, of 1 additional single-family residence. Item 2, the requested adjustment meets all other applicable building and safety codes. So the proposed adjustment is required to meet all other applicable building and safety codes. Once the applicant submits plans for the new single-family residence, all those are going to be reviewed by all city departments, and everything is going to need to meet code. 3, the requested adjustment does not encroach into a recorded easement, and there were no recorded easements identified within the adjustment area on this piece of property. 4, the requested adjustment will have no significant adverse impact on health, safety, or general welfare of the surrounding property owners or the general public, or such impacts will be substantially mitigated. So during the original administrative adjustment case, after the property had been posted, community development staff received multiple phone calls and emails in opposition to this administrative adjustment application. There was a total of 13 emails that were received by staff. Those are included in your packet. And even though we did receive these phone calls and emails, staff found no evidence that the approval of this administrative adjustment would have any adverse impacts on the health, safety, or general welfare of the surrounding community. The proposed use of the property remains single-family residential, so there's no change in zoning, or there's no use that would not be allowed by an R1C zone district. And there are no public nuisance issues created by the proposal. And again, all future construction must comply with all building and zoning codes. And finally, item 5 is that the requested adjustment is necessary to either A, compensate for some practical difficulty or some unusual aspect of the site of the proposed development not shared by landowners in general, or accommodate an alternative or innovative design practice. For part A, the determination of practical difficulty or some unusual aspect may include consideration of 1, the historic aspect and development of the subject property, 2, the use and development of the subject property compared to similar properties in the vicinity, 3, the property's use and development under previously applicable zoning, 4, any intervening public action, like with condemnation for public right-of-way, not applicable in this case, or E, other factors that support a finding of practical difficulty or unusual aspect that is not of the applicant's own making or under the applicant's direct control. So in this instance, I have one more photo to share here. And what you're looking at here is the original plat of the Annandale subdivision, which were there, these lots were originally platted. We're looking at lots 12 and 13 and portion of this Linvale Avenue, which had been vacated at some point, and the property had been split between a few lots in here. And so if you take a look at this, the plat, the original lot 12 was originally platted at 23.6 feet in width. And it was platted in 1888. And so the original Annandale subdivision plat depicts the east side of this block recorded at that 23.6 in length. And then with the rest of the lots divided into 25-foot lots. So the original lot as it was created, and once the Linvale Avenue was vacated, that extra footage got attached onto lot 12 to make that 48.6 feet in width. So due to the historic subdivision of the property and the existing lots, which obviously the owner of the parcel did not create, staff found that that was the practical difficulty or the unusual aspect of the site. So after reviewing all of these items, community development staff found that the request met the criteria as specified for granting an administrative adjustment. Community Development Director Brad Power signed off on the approval of the administrative adjustment on June 9th, 2021. As per the appeals sections of our code for administrative decisions, any person aggrieved by any notice, order, or final decision issued by the city manager or designee, or by any administrative officer of the city pursuant to the provisions of this title may appeal the notice, order, or final decision to the Board of Adjustment. John Lane, a neighboring property owner. Pull up this again. So the subject property is in yellow and the appeal application came from the property directly to the south. There's John Lane submitted an appeal application within the 30-day appeal period from the date of the Community Development Director's decision. It is staff's recommendation that since the facts of the case have not changed since the original administrative adjustment had been approved, we recommend that the administrative adjustment at 2751 South Grant Street be upheld.
Do we have any questions for staff at this time?
Yeah, if this was not done through the administrative process, then it would come to us instead as a variance request. Is that the other route?
Right. So, and actually the code explicitly states that for these types of variances, they don't go to the Board of Adjustment right away. They only go to the Board of Adjustment through the appeal process because the nature of the adjustment is so small that it was basically granted administrative review rights.
Okay. And if I'm not seeing like a standard for us in these parts of the code, it's basically if we think it should go before our board, is that?
So the appeal of an administrative decision,
Yeah.
per code is that's when it goes before the Board of Adjustment. It's for hearing the appeal.
Okay. I think I got it.
So table 16.6.1.1. And this is in the R1C district, is that correct?
Yes.
So this is just considered a regular lot and the minimum width is 50. And the only other minimum we have is the square foot area. Is that correct? 6,000?
Yes.
And so we are still greater than 6,000 with the smaller footage?
Yes. Yep. It still meets the square footage requirements. And they would actually not be able to apply for both a lot width variance and a lot size variance. They could only do one or both. So if it was lacking in both width and size, they wouldn't be able to apply for a administrative adjustment.
Okay. Any other questions for staff at this time?
Do we have any idea when the that Linvale was vacated? I hate going back to the 19th century, but
I don't. When I was doing my research on that, I could not find exactly when that had been vacated.
okay.
Any other questions for staff at this time? All right, Mr. Sampson, I believe we're done with you for the time being. So since this is an appeal, I'm assuming, Dugan, that the next step is we ask for if there's anyone here to speak against it. Because
That would be my understanding. I don't know if the applicant, who was the person who requested the administrative appeal, I don't know if they're present to speak to the board. But if they're not, then you would go to the individuals who wish to speak to the board in opposition to this administrative adjustment.
okay. So Shelley, do you know if Mr. Lane is present?
I don't see a name with John Lane on the side, but I have had a Carson Green with his hand up for a long time, and I'm not sure if that's.
Mr. Green?
Hello, Chair Finn and members of the board. Yeah, I wish to speak against it. So if you want me to speak now, I could. I would suspect that Mr. Lane is on as well. You might, if you, I mean, I can't see who's on, but if you've got any phone numbers, it could be him.
Do we have it?
I've got a number ending in 1898. Is that Mr. Lane? If you can raise your hand, or let me allow you to talk.
I don't know if he can raise his hand if he's only
No,
via
I
phone.
got that. I've got it.
Hi, this is 1898. This is Tom Ferguson. I'm representing Arc West. We're the ones who put together the application for the owner of this property.
Okay. I don't know if we have any questions for you. And I'm not sure if we would loop you in, since this is only an appeal. But thank you for identifying yourself so we know who you are.
Sure. Yeah. If you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So it looks like Mr. Green, you might have the floor.
Okay, well, hello again,
Mr.
Chair
Green,
Finn and
if you can hold on just a moment, I need to swear you in.
We're gonna have to sort.
okay.
Let's remember the rules,
Yes.
Mr. Green.
No problem.
If you can raise your right hand, I assume you are. Do you swear?
Why don't you show my video? I have video.
Let me get in there real quick. All these different. You should be in there.
Oh.
There you are.
Hello.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that you will tell the truth in this proceeding before the Board of Adjustment and Appeals?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Carson Green, 295 East Amherst Avenue, Inglewood, 80113.
Thank you. And as a reminder, Tom,
Yes, ma'am.
they will have 3 minutes to speak and Wade will be keeping time.
Okay, and real quick before time starts, Mr. Green, we did receive your letter. It's in the packet, so we have that. So if you want to, I've read it, and I'm assuming our board has too. So you can know that we have read that, and then if you'd like to start speaking, the time will start.
Okay, thank you, Chair Finn. So I live a few doors down from the subject property. I'm here to share my objection to the administrative adjustment for subdividing the property against the zoning rules that require a 50-foot minimum lot width in the R1 zone. I was going to read the purpose from the municipal code, but I appreciate that Mr. Sampson did. I will point out that in the definition, it's justified for small adjustments that are unlikely to have adverse effects on nearby properties of the neighborhood. In this case, this administrative adjustment is not small and will have significant effects on health and welfare of nearby properties, since it will change an existing R1 zoned lot and single family home into 2, with the associated increase in density, traffic, parking, alley wear and tear, destruction of tree canopy, reduction of permeable land, increase in runoff, increased load on already taxed waste infrastructure, and reduction of sunlight access for neighboring properties, among other negative effects for the neighboring properties. And then in regard to the admin adjustment approval criteria, number 5, which Member Schmitz, there is a list of different criteria from normal, the normal, Board of Adjustment and Appeals cases that is specific to administrative adjustments. And I'm addressing number 5 of that. It says it has to satisfy both A and B. I don't think it satisfies either of those. A is this property does not have a practical, or I'm saying this property does not have a practical difficulty or unusual aspect of the site not shared by landowners in general. There's nothing unusual about this site. It's a nice wide lot in an R1 zone where there are many other lots wider than 50 feet. And for B, the proposed admin adjustment is not for an alternative or innovative design practice that achieves the same or better degree the objective of the existing design standards sought to be modified. The zoning change would have a significant effect on the character of the neighborhood of single-family homes with decent side lots and front lots and back lots. And for all the reasons I already stated, I'd like to note that as I was one of the 13 citizens to write in against this, in my query, I asked a couple straightforward questions. My questions were ignored. I received no response from staff. I don't know if they responded to anyone else. I wonder what the point of posting and taking in public feedback is if all the feedback received is negative and the city's response is to ignore all of those and approve it anyway. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Green. I would actually like, Mr. Green, can you direct me to, I'm trying to find what you were referring to.
Yeah, it's in 16-2-17. So it's under administrative adjustments, and then you go all the way down to F, criteria, and then there's 1 through 6 under criteria. And the ones that I was referring to are number 5, A and B, and C. Oh, 5, A and B in the paragraph that describes number 5 is what I was talking about.
Okay, thank you. Shelley, do we have any other people present?
We do.
Okay, thank you,
Ms.
Mr.
Stanley?
Green.
Ms. Stanley, did you want to speak?
Yes, this is actually John Lane. I'm using my wife's iPad,
Oh,
so
John.
I apologize for the confusion there.
Hi, Mr. Lane.
Hello, but actually I'm happy to follow Carson in this case. Thanks, Carson, for speaking up.
I'll hold on. We'll need to get you sworn in, please, sir.
Okay, I guess I should join as a panelist too. Okay.
Can you hear me, John?
I can, yes.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that you will tell the truth in this proceeding before the Board of Adjustment and Appeals?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
John Lane. My residence is 2945 Grove Street in Denver. But I do own the property next to the subject property. The property I own is at 2775 South Grant. I also own a second property in Englewood. Is there anything else you need?
Thank you, Mr. Lane. We also got your letter in our packet as well.
Okay.
So if you'd like to add anything, I believe you have 3 minutes. And
Okay.
once you start speaking, we'll start the clock.
Okay, thanks. I guess I did sort of put all of my thoughts in the letter. I guess I would just underscore a few things in there. One is that as a layperson, it is confusing to me, as I mentioned in the letter, that there is such thing as a minimum that isn't a minimum. And so to me, the 50-foot zoning guideline, which is the minimum, is an absolute. And so it puzzles me that there can be a modification of an absolute, which in my mind then creates another kind of ripple effect. There's now a new minimum size, which then can be adjusted by another 5% and all the way down, ratcheted down. So I find that puzzling. Also, I do think it's important to the discussion to note, as I mentioned in the letter, that the topography of the houses on that side of Grant Street is unusual, and those houses are built on the side of a bluff. And so construction that takes place has a much greater potential, in my opinion, to create structural problems for neighboring properties, particularly mine in particular. There's a retaining wall between the two properties right now that's between 7 and 8 feet tall. And so I anticipate potential problems there, and I'm not sure, who is going to be liable or responsible for any potential damages, short or long term, that may come as a result of excavating a new property closer to this one. Also want to just echo what Carson noted, the idea that, there was a window of time given for people to voice their feelings about this, and 13 people stepped forward, all in the negative. And I'm just not certain why there was even an exercise in opening this up for comment, if those comments are going to be ignored. And I guess my final thought is that it kind of feels like there's some burden on me to justify why this adjustment shouldn't be made. And I don't understand that. I don't understand why there's any burden on me to somehow require that the zoning minimum is met, that the zoning guideline is 50 feet. To me, the burden is not on me to justify why it should be adjusted.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. I appreciate your comments.
You're welcome. I can't hear you all of a sudden.
Yeah, sorry, that was me. I
Oh,
totally
okay.
muted myself.
No problem.
Shelley, do we have anyone else present to speak? And now, Shelley, you're on mute, I think.
Sorry.
Is there anyone else present to speak?
There is nobody with their hand up, and there's nobody in person.
All right, if anyone else wants to speak in favor or against, please raise your hand.
I do have
Otherwise,
a Miss Hill.
Okay, if Ms. Hill could speak. Hi, Ms. Hill, looks like you're on mute. Oh, you're off mute.
Sorry.
Hi, Ms. No worries. Real quick, before I ask for you to be sworn in, did you submit a letter?
I did submit an email to Eric.
Okay, I'm just scrolling through looking for it right now. So Shelley, if you could please swear in Mrs. Hill.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that you will tell the truth in this proceeding before the Board of Adjustment and Appeals?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Joanne Hill, 2736 South Grant Street.
Thank you.
I'm still looking. Hold on, please. I just want to make sure that okay, perfect. Miss Hill, I found it.
Good.
And I've read through these. I just didn't remember your name, but I now have it on my second screen. And if there's anything else you'd like to add, once you start speaking, you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. I just would like to express my appreciation for Carson Green and John Lane. I totally agree with what they're saying. One thing I do want to add about this property is it has a very unusual topography, meaning that the lot is not very deep and the houses adjacent to the lot, as well as the house, are on stilts. So in regards to one of the statements about the health of, I'm not exactly sure, and I don't have it verbatim, but one concern is the runoff. It sounds like the building, it can be 2 buildings, and I'm not sure about setbacks. I know there has to be 5-foot setback, and I've talked to Eric about it. He's given me a couple different answers. So I'm thinking, is there a 5-foot setback to due south and due north, and then a 5-foot setback in between the buildings? If that's the case, and then there's always a proposal of an ADU, which will certainly add to density, and just the configuration of the lot. I would be concerned about the runoff down valley to the lot. I mean, it's steep, and it's hard to imagine someone parking their car in the alley and then walking up a steep flight of stairs. So I think the building will certainly increase density depending on how many people live there. We have a really quiet neighborhood, single family homes, and I just think that this is a duplex type of thing. And I think it sets up a precedent for the rest of the community. And again, it's R1, and it's appearing like we're in R2 with a duplex configuration, duplex type configuration. So that's what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Hill. I appreciate your time. Shall present to speak?
I have Carson Green again with another question. Would you like him to speak?
I will grant Mr. Carson Green more time. And real quick, while we're on it, the setbacks for this house would be max height is 32 feet. The minimum setbacks front is 25 feet. The side setbacks are 5 feet, and the rear setback is 20 feet according to the code. So I'm assuming that's what staff provided Ms. Hill, but I wanted to restate it here just in case. Mr. Green, I will grant you a little bit more time.
Yeah, actually, all I wanted to do is state that there is a way for people to raise their hand if they're dialed in. I mean, knowing that there's 25 people on the line that have not, you haven't iterated through them to ask, and it could very well be people who are not familiar with Zoom and how to raise their hand. They can do a *9 if they're called in. And, or I think it would be in the city's best interest if they were iterated through and asked and given a chance to speak in case they're having trouble doing that. That's all I was going to say. And just thank you to Mr. Lane and Ms. Hill for what they said. I think strongly that this would change the character of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green. So those online *9. if you would like to speak, if you could hit *9. Shelley, do we have, how many people do we have that have called in? Do we have that number?
We just have one.
But so like, so there's 25 participants. I think that's what.
But we have quite a few for the second variance case.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
I do
All
have
right.
I do have Miss Hill that has another question if you'd like to.
We will go back to Miss Hill briefly since I think she probably still has a little bit of time left. Miss Hill, you're on mute. Miss Hill? So Shelley, do you need to unmute her or is she just muted?
I have.
Oh, hi, Miss Hill.
Sorry.
No worries. Did you want to add something
Yeah, I
real quick?
do. No, it's just a question for you. Can you clarify the setbacks again, meaning to the north and the south of the buildings and then in between the buildings?
Yes, ma'am. So, and I'll have staff do it. All I'm doing is reading Inglewood the municipal code, but I will have staff come back and also do that. But I have that the max height is 32 feet, front setback 25 feet, the side setback 5 feet, the rear setback 20 feet.
Right. And my point is like, it's going to look like a duplex. So with that being said, is there a requirement 5 feet from each building to the center line of the lot?
Yes, ma'am. That's the,
There
yes,
is?
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. All right. Do we have any other questions for staff at this point?
I've got one.
Okay, if Mr. Sampson can come on back down.
So the original plat was that about 23-foot width lots originally? Were any homes developed at that width?
The best I can do with that is speculate at this point. I know we do have some, what we deem as small lots or urban lots within the city that do have residential structures on them that don't meet current code requirements. But for any specific lot that is, the 23.6 feet in width, I would have to do more research on that and let you know.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions for staff at this point from the board? So I have a quick question for staff, Mr. Sampson. So for the criteria is the criteria, and I'm on page, it's 1652. Was this in your documents that you gave to the city? I was looking through the criteria 1 through 6.
I don't. I guess I don't know what part of this code you're referring to.
So, and maybe,
Chair Finn,
so,
can I ask you a question? It is in his, it's numbered differently. So everything in the body of his that he went through, it says A, B, C, D, but these are different numbers, but it's the same verbiage.
Okay. Thanks, Randy. I was confused about that. So that would have been under number 5 in the staff report. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? All right. So I need a motion.
Tom?
I'm going to close the public. Yep, Dugan.
So you're going to close the public hearing next, is that correct? Is that what
Yes,
I'm hearing?
yes,
Okay,
correct.
so any motion after you close the public hearing has to be in the positive, okay?
Okay,
And I can help you with that when the time comes.
okay. I think the time is about to arrive. The public hearing is now closed, so I need a motion from the board. Is there anyone that would like to set foot on that stage?
I'll try. I'll move that we grant the appeal of the staff decision to grant VAR 2021-004 an administrative adjustment pursuant to Unified Development Code Section 16-2-17 administrative adjustments at 2751 South Grant Street.
May I step in for a minute?
Yes.
With due respect to Mr. Taylor's motion, I think the motion should say, I will make a motion to affirm the administrative adjustment under 16-17D2E and 16-17F. And then a yes vote would be to affirm the administrative adjustment made by staff and deny the appeal. Does that make sense to the board? Because that's what you're doing. You are either reversing because this is an appeal, you're either going to reverse the staff's decision to administrative adjustment or affirm it wholly or in part or modify it, or you can remand it back to staff for further discussion or work on it as the case may be. And you have to take into account in your decision-making criteria that put into his staff report.
So can I, Dugan, go over those options so we can affirm the staff's decision, which is what the motion would be.
Yes.
We could affirm it in part and said, or we could reverse. What would be the word?
Well, you would reverse the decision, which would be then that you would be affirming the appeal.
Okay.
You would be basically denying the administrative adjustment with a reversal.
Okay, and this board would be done as far as we're concerned. If it's reversed, it goes back to the city. The applicant may or may not apply for a variance to our board, etc. Right?
I believe that's correct.
Okay.
So Mr. Taylor, would you like to
Yeah,
rework?
since there's not a second, I will try and rework this. I was looking for the other section that Dugan mentioned.
I believe Dugan would be happy to state those two sections again.
It's 16-17D2E and 16-17F.
Got it. So I will move to uphold the administrative adjustment to Unified Development Code section I don't know. Maybe I need to write this down first.
I can say it again.
Chair Finn, do you mind if I clarify something real quick about what was said by Ms. Schmitz?
Was it a question? Was it the process that Ms. Schmidt asked?
Yes.
Yes, if you could please clarify that.
So the Board of Adjustment and Zoning Appeals are not able to consider variances to allow additional dwelling units in residential districts above the maximum number permitted by that zone. So I don't know that I guess you would be able to hear a width variance, but that would be after the subdivision would be approved.
It would be a minor subdivision process.
Yeah, yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you.
And Mr. Burkholder, could you please affirm that, could you be sworn in and state what you just stated was fact? Can you please swear him in?
Sure. Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that you will tell the truth in this proceeding before the Board of Adjustment and Appeals?
I do.
Please state your name.
Wade Burkholder, Planning Manager in the Community Development Department. And I just provided clarification that per code, the Board of Adjustment and Appeals is not permitted to hear variances that would grant additional dwelling units per the zoning code maximum for a lot. So the variance, if it were to come back, would have to occur after the subdivision is approved and granted, and it would be for that width variance on the lot.
Boy, Ms. Schmitz, you just, so I need to, if I ask Mr. Burkholder additional questions, am I going to need to open up the public hearing again, Dugan?
Yeah, the fact is you closed the public hearing.
Yep.
So you would need a motion and a second to reopen the public hearing at this point.
Yep. So I would just, so while Mr. Taylor's working on it, I would ask that we have a motion and a second to reopen the public hearing. And we can ask Mr. Burkholder a couple of questions. The thing I'm interested in is how they can subdivide this without the variance, because without the minimum lot width coming into play, and I don't understand how that, because
I move that we reopen to ask his question.
do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. The public hearing is reopened. Mr. Burkholder, you're still under oath. Can you just quickly describe the process that I'm a little confused on? So how you can subdivide it if you can't have the minimum width.
And you are correct. I misspoke there. So you would have to have the variance prior to the subdivision occurring, because that would not be a legal lot. But the way the code reads is that you shall not consider zoning variance applications to allow additional dwelling units in residential districts above the maximum number permitted by zone district standards for lot area and lot width. So that it could be said that you would not be able to consider a variance to the lot width because you would be permitting an additional dwelling on that property. So
it seems, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the part of the code you read seems to indicate that we would be considering the number of houses. So to me, that would be a variance to say we want 2 houses on this lot rather than 1, rather than considering the lot size.
Dwellings. Right, so they would somehow need to have the subdivision before the variance, because otherwise you would be approving two houses on one lot. And there's no variance, it appears, that would allow that at this point. So my point being is there wouldn't automatically be a variance option if the administrative adjustment were not approved.
What section of the code are you referring to?
16-2-16A.
I don't know if you're interpreting that correctly, because it seems to me that we would not consider the zoning variance application to allow additional dwelling units. We would be considering the zoning variance application to have a smaller lot. Is that not correct?
Without the subdivision, you still have the one lot. And you couldn't consider the two houses on the one lot without the subdivision happening, which can't happen.
Is there such a thing as a conditional approval by our board? Maybe that's a Dugan question. I feel like we've done that.
No, there's not.
Okay.
There is not.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I think that I just think I'm reading this differently. I don't understand how we would be considering a variance to subdivide the lot, and there could be no houses built on the lot whatsoever. It could be a vacant lot. We're not considering to add any houses permitted by zone district standards for lot area and lot width, but that's here or there. I guess that can be decided later if need be. All right. I assume, Shelley, there's still no other hands up.
There is Mr. Green.
Mr. Green, I will give you 30 seconds because I think you have a little bit of time left. And since I've reopened the hearing, if you would like to make a statement.
I'm not sure if I understand everything that just occurred. I tried, but it appears to me that if this was not being done through an administrative adjustment, then you're all acknowledging that it wouldn't even be possible to separate this into two lots because it's against the zoning rules. And I would just like to point out as a citizen that sounds crazy to me, that you guys would approve an administrative adjustment to split this into two lots in an R1 zone where the minimum lot width is not met. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Public hearing is now closed.
I have another one. If you
who is this?
the applicant.
The applicant. I will also grant the applicant 30 seconds since the public hearing, since we've reopened it. Mr. Lane, if you could state your case very quickly.
Yeah, I guess I'm also a little confused about what's going on right now, but I do want to just say that my sense is that there seems to be a rush to try to approve this without a whole lot of thought being given to all of the implications that were raised before Mr. Burkholder spoke. And I'm not sure where we stand right now, but I'm uncertain as to why there would be a rush. If there's any question about any of this, I would feel better as a multiple property owner, knowing that this has been fully vetted and that this is a decision that's made with care and not a predetermined decision that we all just wasted our voices here for.
Yeah, Mr. Lane. So the way the public hearing works is the board cannot have a discussion until we close the public hearing and we have a motion on the table. And then at that point, the board can have a discussion. So that's why it probably seems to you like we have not discussed it at this point.
Okay.
So
Well,
it's just a point of order.
Okay, I think my concern was there was an immediate, beginning of an emotion to approve.
Right. We have to have a motion on the table.
Right.
And it has to be in the affirmative.
Yeah,
And then we have to have a second, and then the board can discuss it among ourselves.
I see. Okay, my apologies.
Yep. No sweat. I'm more than this. All of us are learning stuff tonight.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Let me check one more.
Yep.
Hold on, Tom, sorry. The attendee on the phone, did you wish to speak again? 1898. Okay, Tom.
Okay. So any other questions before I close it? Any other questions? Oh,
hold on.
Sorry about that. No, I don't have anything to add. Thank you, Shelley.
Any other questions for staff before I close the public hearing again? All right, the public hearing is now closed. Mr. Taylor, no pressure. I believe you might have a motion.
I move to uphold staff's administrative adjustment to minimum lot width under section 16-2-17D to E and section 16-2-17F for 2751 South Grant Street.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Discussion. Thoughts?
So my perception is that we're looking at the criteria that staff looked at and seeing, I mean, one thing we can do is see if we agree or disagree with their analysis. And most of it, I think is correct. The one that doesn't quite get there for me, or at least it's on the line, shows up in page 3 of the staff report. D, the adjustment is necessary to compensate for some practical difficulty or some unusual aspect of the site. It's similar to that criteria we look at that we always struggle with in our usual criteria. Anyway, I wanted to see what others thought about that.
Well, I guess I'll go on that just to respond to that. I mean, it happenstance the way the lots worked out way back in the day, that block is 1.4 feet short of having 25-foot lots. There's no way around that. So normal use would normally have allowed that to begin with. So I don't have an issue with it. I mean, that's exactly what staff needs to be looking at. And I guess while I'm going on here, I pretty much agree with staff's analysis. I know that public health, safety, and welfare is kind of ambiguous, and a lot of people don't want growth and change and understand all that, but I really feel like staff has done exactly what is required of them. The other thing I might add, since I'm an architect and work in a lot of different jurisdictions, almost every unified development code has this kind of allowable thing for the staff to do on small adjustments like this. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think they've done what they needed to do here.
Yeah, thanks, Randy. I think your statement makes a lot of sense. So Ms. Schmitz, which point were you?
Oh, it's, let's see.
It's
Page 3.
3.
A, B, C, D. So it's,
Yep. So it's D. Is that the one you're talking about?
yeah, the difficulty or hardship.
Yep. Okay. And that is actually F5 in the code.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what Mr. Green was also referring to.
I think, yeah,
please.
I think staff's analysis that lot is unusually wide for the vicinity because of these circumstances that they outlined dating back to road vacations and that kind of stuff. I think we can consider that there.
The history is what goes to the unusual nature of it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I think to me a little bit it's the history, and as Mr. Friesen stated, that way back when they originally made that lot smaller, yeah, and I mean, I don't think, it looks like the house is sitting in the middle of the lot, so unless you raise the house, I don't know why anyone would subdivide it. But
yeah, if the lot had originally been 25 feet in width before the addition onto it, we wouldn't be sitting here tonight.
Right.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
And I agree with that, is that, I think it was 1899 or something like that it was divided originally, and we had that extra street in there. I mean, lots happened, since that time, removing the street, putting it back, and then trying to essentially put back together a puzzle that never quite fit in the first place. And I think that, again, in my mind, that's where that allotment is allowed by planning to kind of even things up, if you want to call it.
Yep, I agree. Any other questions or comments about this? I understand the emotion tied to it, because I would not be happy if this happened on my street. The only problem is reading through this, I think that it was done correctly. I think the 5% is given to staff, and I think staff did the analysis. And I understand that it's not necessarily maybe what some of the neighbors would like, but I think staff maybe did it. I think staff did it correctly. Any other questions, comments, discussion before we vote? All right, Ms. Warwick, let's vote.
Mr. Taylor,
I voted to uphold the administrative adjustment. I found that their analysis of the criteria under 16-2-17D, section 2E under that, that the adjustment wouldn't exceed 5% of the required minimum lot width, that the adjustment and minimum lot width does not result in alternate permitted land use, that the development for minimum lot width would not be eligible for additional variances, and that the result of the adjustment would only result in one additional residential dwelling unit. I also found the additional criteria under 16-2-17F were met, that this request would be consistent with the comprehensive plan, that the requested adjustment would meet all other applicable building and safety codes, that the requested adjustment would not encroach into any recorded easement, that there were none identified, that the requested adjustment would have no significant adverse impact on health, safety, or general welfare, or that the requested adjustment, and also that the requested adjustment is necessary because there is this unusual historic aspect of lot width that dates back to 1888. And I believe I am through all the criteria.
Ms. Schmitz?
Sorry, I vote yes for the reasons stated. That were a lot of criteria we had to deal with today. And I will say too, that I appreciate all the folks that came out to comment. I think the process is confusing, and I don't know, we are all here because this process is in place to appeal. So there is built-in protections to get it to another group that's going to take another look at it. That's all.
Mr. Friesen?
I concur with what Mr. Taylor said, very well stated. I also agree with Ms. Schmitz that, yeah, it's hard to understand all this, and I really do appreciate people's concerns. So thank you.
Mr. Thompson?
I too concur with actually the three previous comments and basically verifications of the code. And I concur that also too, having people come up is their right. There might be some hesitation of having, this process go through its normal, means. But at the same time, that's just as Ms. Smith said, that's why we're here.
Ms. Spencer?
I concur with what Mr. Taylor said. I do understand the emotion behind it as well, but I feel like everything did fall in line with the requirements that staff found.
Chair Finn?
I also concur with Mr. Taylor and thank him for getting through all the criteria. I would like to add that I understand the emotion, and in short, I think it sucks, but I think it was done, the procedure that we have in place was done correctly. I would encourage anyone that has a little heartburn over this to please get involved in the city. I know that city council positions, I think you can sign up and start that process now. The more people we have involved, the better off as a city will be. And a couple of other comments very quickly. I know that perhaps we get a lot of emails on some of these cases, but it would be nice at times if staff would at least acknowledge that emails have been received. I understand some of the frustration that they feel like their voices aren't being heard if you don't hear anything back from staff. And also make sure that there was an indication that there might be a bird of prey nest, that everything that is done appropriately for that. If it is a bird of prey, it might be protected under the Migratory Bird Act, and care needs to be taken with that as well. That's all I have, Shelley.
The administrative adjustment is upheld 6-0.
All right, now I have to get my ducks back in row because they're a little out of line. If you could please bear with me for one moment. All right, the public hearing for case VAR 2021-009. The applicant is Waste Management of Colorado. The property address is 2400 West Union Avenue. The request is the applicant is requesting a variance to construct a 20-foot fence in the I-1 zone district. We were sent out posting the affidavit of publication and posting earlier today, and we've received that. Staff, if I could please have a overview from you.
All right, hello again.
Eric, I can swear you in.
Again?
Again, this case, different case.
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that you will tell the truth in this proceeding before the Board of Adjustment and Appeals?
I do.
Please state your name.
All right, Eric Sampson, Planner 2 with Community Development. All right, and my PowerPoint still doesn't seem to be playing nice this evening, so
we gave you a lot of time, Mr. Sampson, to get that fixed with the first case.
I know.
I can't.
It's like this is going to be an IT question, I think, because
right.
it's weird because I have the app and I open the app and I try to open my presentation and then the app crashes. So that's what's going on. Okay, so this is case variance 2021-009 for 2400 West Union Avenue. And the applicant, hold on, let me share my screen a second. Right, and the applicant is requesting to construct a 20-foot fence in the I-1 zone district, the light industrial district. This is a variance table 16-6-6-4 of the Inglewood Municipal Code, which does state that the max height allowed in industrial zone districts is 12 feet. So background on this is it's approximately a 9-acre parcel and contains the Waste Management South Metro Transfer Facility. And so during the day-to-day operations, some debris does get loose on site. And the request for the 20-foot fence is to keep the stray trash out of the Mary Carter Parkway, which you can see me kind of hovering over with my cursor on the map, as well as the South Platte River to the east. So community development routed this variance application to the applicable city departments, including building, engineering, fire, parks and rec, and utilities. All departments approved of the variance, with parks recommending that the debris be collected from the fence and be removed on a regular basis for aesthetic purposes. For the criteria regarding the fence, 4 criteria need to be met. The first criteria is that unique physical conditions exist on site, such as size, shape, location, topography, or surroundings, which are peculiar to the land or structure involved, which deprive the applicant of privileges enjoyed by other properties in the vicinity. So in this situation here, the South Metro Transfer Station abuts the Greenway and the South Platte River. And due to the industrial use of the property and its open space surroundings, there is a need for an increased fence height in order to maintain the aesthetic attributes of the trail and the river. The second criterion is that the variance is consistent with the intent of the zone district regulations to secure public health, safety, and welfare. And staff feels that this variance request will help alleviate potential adverse impacts to public health and safety by keeping loose trash on site and out of the trail system and out of the South Platte. The third criteria is that the variance will not permanently impair the use or development of adjacent conforming properties or alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Staff found no evidence that the increased fence height will impair the use of any adjacent parcels or alter the character of the neighborhood. And finally, the fourth criteria is that the variance is not a self-imposed difficulty or hardship. And again, we found that considering the use of the property and the adjacent uses, the request for a taller fence to keep debris on site, it would not be a self-imposed hardship. So community development recommends that the variance request to be approved for the 20-foot fence. And while I have everything up here, This is an example from the applicant on what that fence is going to look like along that southeast side of the property.
Do we have any questions for staff at this time?
I'd have one. Is this a use by right already in this district as a transfer station?
Yes. There had been an old planned unit development on a portion of the site for the office space that is existing there now, but otherwise it was a use by right.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff at this time? All right, I don't see any other questions. Shelley, I assume the applicant for this case is here, someone representing Waste Management?
Yes.
All right, so if the applicant could please come forward to testify in the case, please state your name and address to the secretary who will administer the oath. And we have what you submitted to the city in our packet, so we've reviewed that. Shelley, if you could swear Waste Management in.
Are you there, Tom?
Yes, can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Thank you. You'll have to I'm a bit of a novice with Zoom calls, so yeah.
Let me go ahead and swear you in, Tom.
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that you will tell the truth in this proceeding before the Board of Adjustment and Appeals?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
I'm Tom Schweitzer. I'm engineering manager with Waste Management. And with COVID, I have a number of offices, but I am officed also at the 2400 West Union Avenue, which is the location of this application.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Schweitzer. Would you like to add anything to anything that the staff said or that you've provided in your packet to the city?
No, staff provided a thorough overview. I would add that we are undertaking a number of improvements at the facility, going through the permitting process with the city of Englewood with respect to that. With respect to upgrades to the buildings, to the loadout facilities, to improve just the overall operation. And a significant aspect associated with that is the installation of this taller fence to basically control, do a more thorough job of controlling fugitive litter as it relates to leaving the property. And so that's the reason for the application.
Any questions for the applicant at this time? I have a quick one. How come you're just doing half of what looks like next to the Platte River? Why don't you continue the fence a little bit further to the property line?
The location of the fence is based on where the management of the waste takes place. The area of the property further to the north is our hauling facility, and that's basically where the trucks are staged and where they're parked. And so we've focused on the area where we have the greatest potential for fugitive litter.
Thank you.
I'd have a question as well. Just trying to understand why what makes 20 feet the right number. Whether studies have been done about 20 feet's a good number versus 25 or 200, I don't know. I'm just trying to understand whether it's going to make a difference or not, I guess.
The current fence, I believe right now is 6 feet. And that has demonstrated maybe not to be as effective as it could be. And so we have installed fences at various heights at a number of our landfills, and 20 feet seems to be a pretty, especially for a facility like this, where the transfer station is at ground level and basically at the similar elevation as where the fence will be erected. We think it'll provide an effective job for us. And that having been said, that does not, alleviate our responsibility to collect any fugitive litter that might leave the site. But we think this is going to vastly improve containment at the facility.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant from the board? All right, Mr. Schweitzer, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Shelley, do we know if there's any people present who wish to speak in favor of the request?
I don't show any hands up.
All right, if anyone would like to speak in favor or opposition, if you could please raise your hand. And if you're just on the phone, I think you can do a *9. And we'll give you another few little minute or two to raise your hand. Staff, any additional comments for this?
I don't have anything.
The board, do we have any other questions for the applicant or for staff? Shelley, there's no hands up?
One moment. No.
All right, so I am hopefully going to close the public hearing just once for this. So the public hearing is now closed for case VAR 2021-009. I need a motion and a second, please.
I can move that we approve a variance to construct a 20-foot fence in the I-1 zone district. This is a variance to table 16-6-6.4 of the Inglewood Municipal Code.
Is there a second?
I second.
Awesome, thank you, sir. Discussion.
This seems good.
It does seem good.
And meets the criteria.
I agree. It's nice to, I'm happy about this. This is good. Any other comments, questions?
I was going to say I concur with Ms. Schmitz too, in the sense that, well, especially with the way that property is set up and the wind comes obviously from Federal down that way, that is, and of course the South Platte's right there. I mean, this is, makes sense to put something like this up.
Yep, I'll commend Waste Management for stepping up and doing this. I think this is awesome. And I also learned that litter can be fugitive, which I found entertaining.
And that people can have not much experience with Zoom after this, which is great.
After this, which is nice. I wish I didn't have as much. Any other discussion, or should we just vote? All right, Ms. Warwick, I think we're voting.
Ms. Schmitz?
I voted yes, because let me get to my criteria here. There's unique conditions such as the use of the property that are size, shape, location that are peculiar with the proximity of the property to the river and the bike trail, which deprive the applicant of privileges enjoyed by other properties in the vicinity. The variance is consistent with the intent of the zone district. It would help to keep different uses separate from each other. The third criteria, it will not permanently impair the use or development of adjacent conforming properties or alter the essential character of the neighborhood, and it's not a self-imposed difficulty or hardship. It's just an attempt to keep these uses separate.
Mr. Friesen,
I agree. Vote yes for the reasons stated by Ms. Schmitz.
Mr. Thompson,
I vote yes too, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Taylor,
I voted yes for the reasons stated.
Ms. Spencer,
I vote yes for the reasons stated.
Chair Finn.
I also voted yes for the reasons stated.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, staff, what do you got for us on deck?
So some of you may be curious as to if and when we're going to meet back in person. And that decision will not, to meet in person will not occur until after the new year, likely. The reason being is that we are not permitted to utilize the city council chambers or the community room. And therefore, we do not have the equipment nor the space to hold public hearings in any of our conference rooms. So until we are once again allowed to use one of those spaces, we will continue to be meeting virtually. And that is scheduled to happen very late this year, but we will likely not be able to get back in there until early next. So that's an update on in-person meetings.
Thank you, sir.
That's all I have.
No possible cases next month?
No.
Wow, look at this. Dugan, city attorney's choice.
I don't have anything to add to the excitement of this evening's meeting.
How long is the beard, Dugan?
Okay, here, it's not a beard. There.
Very nice.
Hair is long.
And you got to participate, Dugan.
What?
And you got to participate tonight.
Yeah, I know. Wow, I was so thrilled.
Board's choice. Again,
Party.
I know we need to have a party. I think there's still COVID. I guess we could all be outside.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, perhaps I should float something and we can, everyone can come over and play with our dogs.
Or else, we can meet at Waste Management when they finish the fence.
We could.
Yeah.
Which side of the fence, though?
We'll meet on the other side.
Okay.
I think Tom's place might happen sooner.
Or there's also Denver Beer Company now that is open down on Downing. That is a nice outdoor area.
Oh,
it's very nice. Yep.
Email,
Is that the time, Tom?
And there's ice cream nearby too.
There is now. They just opened the ice cream store. I know. It's very exciting. I need to probably lose weight.
Beer and ice cream. What a combination.
Sounds like it's all over.
Dugan, I'm assuming one of those I can get you to attend with us, beer or ice cream. So
both of them actually. So
perfect. Well, you know what? I'll send an email and let's pick a date. And we can do it like one afternoon or something. It would be nice to see smiling faces. Thank you again so much for your participation. I know at times it can get a little trying when we start going down rabbit holes, but I appreciate it. So I'll send out an email. I promise. I hope everyone stays safe and healthy and take care of each other. And hopefully we'll have beer and ice cream soon.
Thanks, good.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Finn.
We'll see ya.
Did a good job tonight.
All right.
See y'all. Bye-bye.
See ya.